What will it take for you to change and transform your whole life from one that is sex addicted to a life that is no longer actively involved in your sex addiction? From a life where you are so wrapped up in this sex addiction that you have been trying so hard to break free from, but yet you are captivated by it like it's a spell that has taken over your life. Well, what will it take to leave that and have enough courage to go into an unknown part of your life, free from active sex addiction, where you can thrive as a healthy individual? What will it take? Where do you have to get to in your life for you to finally say no more to your sex addiction and venture off into a life that is wonderful, where you no longer act out on your sex addiction? Can you just imagine for a moment what your life will actually be like if you no longer were involved in your sex addiction? Imagine your life free from this addiction that has been tormenting you for years, maybe decades. What would your life be like? What would you achieve? What would your social life be like? Your professional life, your financial life? What would your life be like if you were no longer captivated by sex addiction? Those are great things to ponder on. And in that pondering of the answers to those questions, you may discover that that might be more enjoyable, more beautiful than where you are now. You might discover that that's the life you want, answering those questions, and how wonderful and free your life would be. Maybe that'll be more appealing than in that lifestyle you're in now, where you're actively involved with your sex addiction. I'm sober 11 years from active sex addiction. I'm also sober from methamphetamine addiction and alcoholism over a decade. And I'll be honest with you, I never thought that I would be able to say that. I never thought I'd be in a place in life where I'm actually free from active sex addiction. I'm 53 years old, and I turned 53 this month. And my sex addiction was so horrific, my spiritual advisor had told me that I was the worst case of sex addiction he ever witnessed. Now, I'm just going to share briefly here where I was when I was actively involved in my sex addiction before I was able to wave my white flag of surrender and give a new life, a new design of living, a chance. You know, I didn't care if I died. I was so deeply entrenched in my sex addiction, I truly didn't care if I died, as long as I was dying high on methamphetamine and having sex. If I died that way, my mental state, my thinking actually believed I'm okay if that's how I die. I mean, how irrational is that? How spiritually sick is that? And I didn't look at it that way at the time. I was just so involved in my sex addiction that was my number one priority. My number one priority in life was to hunt and capture my next sexual experience. Hunt and capture my next sexual experience. I was driven 24 hours a day. Yeah, that was me. I don't know if that's you, but I was driven 24 hours a day to act out sexually, whether it was pornography or anonymous sex or planning a hookup or on Grindr or a hookup or dating app, whether it was cyber sex, sexting, whatever it was. I was driven 24 hours a day to be stimulated in my sex addiction, and that's how I functioned. I was a functioning sex addict. I was also a functioning drug addict and alcoholic for a while, until all of them came tumbling down on my life, and I crumbled, I fell hard, and ultimately got arrested for having cyber sex with a high school teen who was underage, who I met on Craigslist. And that was bound to happen at some point, to have an experience like that, because I was so active sexually and hooking up all over the place and answering ads on Craigslist and Adam for Adam and Manhunt and Grindr, that I was at some point going to get myself in a situation that would get me in trouble. And when I got in trouble, I prayed to God to die in my sleep. Let me share this with you. I have never once, not once, wanted to die, had suicidal thoughts, or prayed to God to die in my sleep since I've been clean and sober from sex and drugs. I've never wanted to die. But when I was actively involved in my sex addiction, I wanted to die. Can you relate to that? So isn't it interesting how addiction led me down the road to wanting to die, feeling hopeless and desperate, and yet experiencing a life free from that? I want to live. I don't want to die. I want to experience a life thriving as a healthy individual. And that's my mission for you, to have a healthy life thriving as a healthy individual. But I had to be ready. I had to be ready to finally wave that white flag of surrender and go down a new road. Take a new risk. Take a chance on a strong, spiritually sound, healthy life. And take that guidance from a spiritual advisor and just trust what he is suggesting will work for me. Because I learned my thinking got me in trouble. My best thinking brought me down the road of destruction in my addiction. So for me to change and transform, for you to change and transform, when are you ready? I had to change. I had to want to change more than stay the same. The pain of the consequences had to be greater than what I believed the pain of change would give me. Does that make sense? And it got to the point where I was either going to keep doing what I was doing and die, or change and live. And when those three ingredients came together for me, I was ready, and I waved my white flag of surrender. Are you ready? Are you ready to wave your white flag sincerely? Sincerely. What are you willing to do to live your life free from sex addiction? Free from any addiction. Most sex addicts are multi-addicted. Something else, substances, drugs, alcohol, they play a role to enhance sex addiction. My methamphetamine addiction, my alcohol addiction was all to enhance my sex addiction, to feed the lion of sex addiction. And it all destroyed me. So I had to get to a point where changing seemed less painful than the consequences I was dealing with. Have you had enough pain? Have you had enough agony? Have you had enough where you're willing to do what it takes to change? Well, I'm going to talk with you right now about 3 strategies that I had to take on when I was ready to change. And I'm going to offer those 3 strategies to you here. So let's take a look at those 3 right off the top. Let's get to it. Strategy number 1, I had to change my thoughts and focus. So therefore, you must change your thoughts and focus. Strategy number 2, I had to discover a purpose that inspired me. So, strategy number 2 for you, you must discover a purpose that inspires you. And strategy number 3, no more negotiating with my sex addiction. See, I had to stop it. So you must no longer negotiate with your sex addiction. These 3 strategies, taking them on, changed my life. They changed my life because I learned what I'm looking at is what I'm going to do. What I'm thinking about is what I'm going to do. Can you understand that? When you think about acting out in your sexually addictive behaviors, when you think about it, it ultimately becomes an obsession. You can't stop thinking about it. Once you think about it repeatedly, over and over again, it becomes an obsession. And then when you're obsessed about a thought, you're going to act on it. And then when you act on those addictive behaviors, it becomes compulsive. You can't stop once you start. Can't do 10 minutes of pornography or a half hour at the sex club or 6 minutes on Grindr. It's not going to happen. You understand? So that obsession will take you right into compulsive activity. And then when you're done acting out sexually and you're exhausted, you're desperate. You're so much in despair and self-loathing and self-hatred, hopeless, perhaps even suicidal. And then what? You start thinking about it again. And I talk about the cycle of sex addiction. This is my cat. Come on. Oh, he loves being on the desk. I talk about that in another one of my videos here. The cycle of sex addiction: preoccupation, obsession, compulsion, and despair. You're going to think about it first, then it becomes an obsession, then you act on it compulsively, and then you're in a desperate state of mind and body where you feel hopeless and perhaps even suicidal. So we got to watch what? Our thoughts. And that's strategy number 1. Change your thoughts and focus. You must change what you're thinking about. It's that simple. You are what you think about all day. So change what you're thinking about. Change what you're looking at. Change your focus. You're not responsible for your first thought, but you are responsible with what you do with that thought. Don't look at what you don't want. Look at what you want. If you think about acting out sexually and you keep thinking about it, it will become an obsession, and then it will become compulsion. And then you're going to get desperate. So focus on what you're thinking about. And if you're thinking about acting out, don't fight that thought. Change the thought. Look at where you want to go. Focus on where you want to be in life. Pay very close attention to the direction you're going in. Don't look at what you don't want. Look at what you want. If your thought goes to acting out sexually, change your thought. You're not responsible for your first thought, but you are responsible with what you do with that thought. Strategy number 2. You must discover a purpose that inspires you. You have to be inspired. Let me tell you something. Motivation comes and goes. You may be motivated at 10 a.m. to no longer act out sexually, but by 10:30, you're not motivated anymore and you act out. Hasn't that happened to you? Did you ever make a promise to yourself 1 minute and literally 5 minutes later you're acting out and broke the promise? But you must discover a purpose that inspires you. Inspiration is deep-rooted. Inspiration is in your spirit. Inspiration will keep you going, not motivation. Motivation is a feeling. It comes and goes. But inspiration, that is a spiritual principle that becomes part of your character. Find something that inspires you. Do something that gives you purpose to be inspired. It doesn't have to be something you're going to do forever. Go and do something that inspires you. Maybe listen to a personal trainer on YouTube, take on some of those exercise suggestions, and go to the gym for $10. Planet Fitness is $10. Go to Planet Fitness and work out. It's going to make you feel better. That's going to inspire you because you're doing the things that inspire you. You want a better self-esteem? You want a deeper self-confidence? You can't talk yourself into it. You have to do yourself into it. You have to do the things that inspire you. Do the things that build your self-esteem. Do the things that give you a deeper confidence. Act out in life to build who you are. Act out the behaviors that build your confidence. Go help somebody. Do something nice and want nothing in return. You have to act in ways that will build your self-esteem and confidence. So pay very close attention to what you're doing so you can get inspired. Acting out sexually is exhausting. It is tiring. Holding on to the secrets and the shame is exhausting. It leads to emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical burnout. So let's take a look and do the things that are going to build you up, give you energy. Hang out with positive people. Hang out with strong people. Hang out with people better than you. Get involved in programs that make you happy, that bring joy and laughter to your life. You're responsible for this, not me, not your friends, not your parents, no one, not your boss, not your coworker. No one's responsible for your happiness and joy in life more than you. You got to go out and you have to find it. So you must discover a purpose that inspires you. And it just has to inspire you now, not the rest of your life. But do the things today that make you feel better. You have to if you want to get well. And I'll tell you this one last thing. Your mind will talk you out of doing the things that are good for you. Does that make sense? I know you understand that. Your mind is going to talk you out of doing the things that are going to benefit and build your life. Your thoughts are going to do that. Your thoughts are going to convince you to do the very thing you don't want to do because it's unhealthy, but your thoughts are going to take you there. You don't have self-mastery and control yet, power over your thoughts. You don't have it yet. Your thoughts are just going to take you. But it's time now to stand up to yourself within yourself and tell yourself to shut up. Start taking control. Remember, you're not responsible for your first thought. And when you get a first thought that's destructive, immediately get on that thought and change the tune. Change what you're looking at. Don't fight the thought. Just let it go and think about something better. You're going to have to force it at first. You have to force it at first. And then it will become a habit. And then it becomes easy. I promise you. It becomes easy. You force yourself to change those thoughts. Don't fight the negative thought, but force yourself to take a look at the good stuff in life, changing your thoughts and focus. And then do the things that inspire you. Very, very important. This is an important ingredient strategy for you to break free out of that cycle of sex addiction. And most importantly, strategy number 3, no more negotiating with your sex addiction. You cannot negotiate with a killer. It will destroy every vestige of anything good in your life. Sex addiction is progressive and destructive. It'll take everything away from you. You understand? Now, it may not kill you physically. It may not kill you physically, but it will kill you spiritually. It'll kill you mentally. It'll kill you emotionally. It'll drain the life out of you. Sex addiction is a vampire of life, and it will destroy you. So you do not negotiate with a killer. Do not negotiate with sex addiction. In other words, I'll watch porn for 10 minutes. I'll go on Grindr just on Saturday. I'll go to the sex club only for an hour. I'm only going to hook up one more time. No negotiating. I promise you, you're going to lose every time. And I want to share this with you because I want you to understand how the sex addiction is ingenious. And I want you to understand how this works. So you want to stop acting out sexually. The sex addiction, that part of the mind, does not want to die. Do you understand? Sex addiction does not want to die. And if you want to change your life and transform, that sex addiction is going to fight its way to stay in your life. What will it do? The voice of sex addiction. The voice is going to tell you, you know what? Why don't you just act out a little bit and we'll be okay? Just on the weekends. And you'll do it. You know what? Once in a while, that might work. You know what? I haven't acted out sexually all week. I acted out. I went to a sex party last Saturday, and I've been good all week. Haven't even watched porn. So Saturday, I'm going to go out again to a sex club because I can handle it. That sex addiction is going to convince you of that. And then once you really get back up into that, sex addiction will take over again. That voice of sex addiction will persuade you time and time again to keep acting out. No more negotiating. Stand up to yourself within yourself and tell yourself, I'm done. Do not negotiate with your sex addiction. You will lose every single time. Can you relate to that? Are you done? Do you want to break free from sex addiction? No longer act out in your sexually addictive behaviors? If that's you, take on these strategies. Start practicing new ways of living, a new design for living. Think differently, refocus. Do the things that inspire you. Do the things that build your confidence and self-esteem, and you will be better. And imagine, what would your life be like today if you no longer acted out on your sex addiction? What would your life be like a year from now if you never acted out in your sex addiction for the next year? Where would you be? What kind of man would you be? What would your profession be like? Your social life, your romantic life. You, as a man, what would your confidence be like? Pretty good, huh? And that's what you want. That's what I want you to focus on. Now listen, my channel, my business with Academy of Life Change is laser focused to help you and all the sex addicts that are really struggling to break free, eradicate active sex addiction out of your life for good. And if this is you, I post a new episode here every Tuesday. So I want you to click below and subscribe to my channel. hit a thumbs up as well, and hit that bell so you get a notification every time I post a new video. And really, I would love if you comment below on what you're struggling with or what you got out of this video. And I would love if you give me some ideas, things you want to hear about when it comes to sex addiction that you believe will benefit you and help you eradicate sex addiction for the rest of your life. In addition, I do have this free ebook on my website, 5 Phases of Recovery and Transformation for Sex Addiction. I'll have the link to this page on my website where you can download it for free. I'll have it down below. There is a tremendous amount of information in here that is going to at least help you understand what recovering from sex addiction is going to do for you and what the process will be like. So go on my website there. I'll have the link below and download that free ebook. In the meantime, I hope you got a lot out of this session. I wish you a sexually sober day, and do one thing today, one thing that will inspire you. You be well. Take care. See you soon.